Hey everybody, this is B-Word of the Bleach Brothers podcast. Before we get into today's episode, I want to bring your attention to our Linktree. Please visit Linktree/Bleach Bros podcast for the links to all of our socials, streaming sites, and merch. Linktree is linktr.ee/Bleach Bros podcast, all one word. If you enjoy our content, make sure to give us a like and give us a review on whatever platform you're listening to us on. Also, invite your friends. And with that, let's get started with the show.
Hey, what's going on? This is Max Green from Violent New Breed, and you're listening to the Bleach Brothers podcast.
Welcome into the Bleach Brothers podcast. This is B-Word, and as usual, I'm here with my good buddy Jake, great buddy Jake, pain in my ass Jake. How are you tonight, bud?
I'm not as much of a pain in the ass as your hemorrhoids.
I don't know, dude.
When your hemorrhoids were gone, did it feel like, was it like, no, I'm not that level. I'm like close. I'm like a close second. Like if you had, all right, I'm like one of your nuts.
You're like one of my nuts with a welt on it.
That's what I'm saying. I was trying to get to that point, is that when your nut got kicked, like, and it hurts a little bit, it never goes away. Like I'm that little pain that just shows up every now and then, like that twinge, that like phantom pain, right? Like I feel like I'm a phantom pain of a person. Like you're going through your day and you're going, oh, I'm doing work, I'm gonna go get some like Jack in the Box for lunch, I might get a coffee this morning, oh fuck, I gotta talk to Jake. Like phantom pain just happened. Like you just thought of me and you're like, god damn it. Like is that really what happens?
No, because actually I feel like that's probably your own description. You're like, why the fuck is he calling me again? Why the fuck is he texting me? I'm so tired of hearing from this fat motherfucker. And then we get into recording and here we are. So welcome to the show. And we have a guest who I'm going to bring in who's going to take my side. Welcome in, Gnome. How are you, buddy?
Fuck you, Jake, you piece of shit.
Oh, fuck you guys, dude. You know what? Fuck you both. Suck my dick, guys. I'm out of here. Like, you know what? Nobody ever takes my side. Even here's the best part. We've done this show for a long time. And whenever I say, I'm welcome to my friends, even when my friends come and they go, yeah, well, fuck this guy. Jake sucks. Like, I can't fucking win. Even my best friend who's my host with me is like, I'm the phantom pain in your nuts. No, you're worse than me. Like, you think of me that I'm a fat piece of shit. Like, god damn it. I can't even fucking win my own argument.
And welcome to the show, everybody. So again, we have Gnome from the Dads on DayQuill. Gnome, if our fans aren't listening to you, they need to be, first and foremost. But you guys have some pretty significant changes over there. You kind of want to detail what's going on with you guys?
Yeah, sure. I'd hope anybody who's listening to the bros comes over to the DayQuill Nation. You will enjoy it. And, like we say on our show, if you're not listening to Bleach Bros, you can go fuck yourself because this show's where it's supposed to be at. But yeah, we had a recent change. There was 3 of us. This upcoming July will be our 3-year mark as a show. We have never missed an episode. Every Wednesday we drop. And my cousin, who was part of the show, AJ, aka the Stoned, he has some life changes going on, so he decided to step away. And so Dome and I are going to run it. And the cool thing about that was that Dome and I live in the same town. So we bought some new equipment and we decided, well, we've been doing this on Zoom for 2.5 years. Let's do it in person. And so we're his office that he records in, we're converting into part of it into a studio to try and also get more stuff out on YouTube. I don't know that we'll go full shows, but clips, and go from there. So it's exciting. It's different. AJ is definitely a different personality that brings a lot of flair. And I love the guy to death, and I wish him the best of luck. And I do hope, even if it's just as a guest, he does come back occasionally. But we're excited about the changes, new logo, mixing some things up, and it's good. So we did put out an episode when we're recording this today. We dropped an episode. So by the time you're hearing this, there'll be another one coming out the following Wednesday. So yeah.
Well, good for you guys. I mean, it makes me fearful that you're coming on the show. 1, because I realize now I'm easily replaceable. 2, that B-Word has realized that he could just go out and either do the show by himself or find another host. So good for me. I mean, please don't share him all the links of where you're getting your new logo and all the new shit you're doing, because he's an amazing producer as well. Because to be honest, we have our own little show, Gnome.
Yes.
And
yes, we do.
And my fat cohort over here, as he calls himself, has joined in with that. He is the producer for us. But let's speak on we've already, all 3 of us already work together once a week.
Yeah.
And we have another little show, the Hateful Gnome Music Hut. And if they're also not fucking subscribing to that, get into that shit.
Yes.
Yeah. You'll hear awesome interview questions and off the wall interview questions. And we haven't had a band get pissed off yet. I'm waiting for the day. I am waiting for the day that a band member gets pissed off, because that episode will be published. If anybody ever decides to just piss on the show, it will be published. So subscribe just to listen.
My problem is, though, I'm not even going to know when it happens. I think Gnome will make this face. B-Word's always gone black when it happens, because let's
clarify
not
that.
blackface, you fucking idiots.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Not blackface, you idiots. He makes his screen go dark. He doesn't Wesley Snipes it. He just makes sure he goes away for a minute, and then what happens is I go off the wall and ask my questions, and so everybody's waiting for the day where somebody pissed off. I don't think it's going to happen, though. I really don't. I think people are just like, I think people treat me like you guys do now, where they're just like, oh, okay, yeah. Anyways, music, okay, yeah, this guy's all right. My penis, here's my penis. Okay, back to that. Like, I think people just ignore me. I think just like tonight, I think I'm here and Gnome is just taking my place. Like, I'm just here to be ignored tonight.
Gnome, have you had any issues ignoring Jake? Because I cannot ignore this guy. He will not allow it.
See, fuck you, suck my dick.
See, because that's all I hear. The moment I try to just fucking ignore him, it's like, fuck you, suck my dick. But it's not fuck you, suck my dick. Like, even two separate text messages.
It may be three.
F-U-C-K-Y-O-U.
Wait, did you spell suck with C-K-F? Oh, wait, you were spelled fuck. God damn it, this sucks.
Oh, man. So Gnome, for everybody who's not familiar with the Hateful Gnome, for everybody who's not familiar with Dads on DayQuill, make sure to subscribe. Both shows are doing some fucking awesome things. And it has become a really good friendship behind the scenes with all of us. So
Agreed.
I appreciate you guys. But I suppose that's probably the end of our banter segment, because the one thing that I wanted to talk about, and we were actually talking about this behind the scenes for Hateful Gnome, and for me, I didn't know where we would squeeze it in. We're scheduled quite a ways with bands, and we have some filler episodes scheduled, but not really one where we could try to attack this, if that makes sense. And the one thing that kind of got this started was I was watching a documentary on Axl Rose, and the documentary was okay. It wasn't the greatest documentary.
It was not good. Hold on. Fuck you. I'm going to interrupt this. You told me, you said, hey, you guys got to watch this documentary. So, you know what it reminded me of? Remember when we were kids and you'd put on Fox, like after Hard Copy came on and Inside Edition, and you finally got a hold of the fucking remote when your dad leaves the room and he's done being an alcoholic and beating the shit out of you. You would put on like When Animals Attack, and that was the fucking narrator for this. Like, Axl Rose, one day he was so bad and his band hated him. It fucking sucked, dude. It sucked.
I hate to have to do this, B-word, and break up the trend of this show. I really hate to have to do this, but I do vividly remember you coming on and saying, I watched it. It was really good. You guys got to check it out. I have to agree with Jake on this one.
And I had, so let me back up. Was it the greatest documentary?
I hope he said he had a few more beers, because that's the only fucking excuse for this horse shit.
Was it a good documentary? No, it wasn't the greatest one, but I enjoyed it because I like shitty documentaries. Like Jake likes shitty movies. I like shitty documentaries. However, it got me thinking, so specifically to Axl Rose, the guy was just a pain in the fucking ass. Absolute pain in the ass to all of his bandmates. Not talking about any of my co-hosts.
You're like my Slash, dude.
And so it got me thinking about like frontmen and 80s music and all this sort of shit. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to talk about how Jake is a lot like Axl Rose, how I am very much like Slash, and how Gnome is coming in to join the new Guns N' Roses after Slash departs and all that sort of stuff. So we're going to go from there. Does that sound all right?
Great.
All right. So 80s music. Jake and I have talked a lot about 80s music behind the scenes. We haven't really talked about 80s music on the podcast a whole bunch. I really like 80s music. I like 80s hair metal. I like 80s pop. I like 80s rock. I love the later 80s rap. Like when I say later, I mean like the later 80s, the kind of origins of hip hop now. But no, as our guest, when it comes to 80s music, what do you like the best, or what are your views on 80s music?
I think 80s music is a huge transition into the world of music, of giving birth to what we have even nowadays, but what we had in the 90s and then in the early 2000s. Rock, rap, pop, doesn't matter. There was a lot of synth going on in the 80s, and I'm not too big of a fan of the synth style of stuff, but when it comes to hair metal, it birthed the way for a lot of different genre of music, and a lot of flair was created because rock was this grungy hole in the wall kind of a thing, in the 70s and early 80s, and then by the end of the 80s into the 90s, if you weren't at a fucking Poison concert or a Crew concert, what were you doing with your life? And even rap became this big thing in the 80s and then transitioned even bigger in the 90s. And I think the 80s are super influential. And being a kid who was born damn near mid 80s, right? I was just on the back half of the mid 80s. And man, my aunt, who Jake loves to, tag on Facebook and shit like that.
Hey, yo, Bobby. Fucking cherry pie me, warrant lady.
She was only 16 when I was born, so she's more like an older sister to me, and she was super into the hair metal thing. And I attribute a lot of my music love to this day from her because that's what I listened to as a little kid. So it's huge. 80s music is amazing through and through.
I wish she would be like a stepmom stuck in a dryer for me. That's my own thought process. I'll say this about the 80s. I can sum it up in a few things. The men looked like women. The women looked like men. Cars were like boxes. Music was backwards. Drums didn't exist. They were a machine, and I was still in my dad's nutsack. However, fucking great things came from it. I came out of that nutsack. Literally. It was awesome.
I think we were all conceived to Keith Sweat.
Deal with me. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. We're all somebody was, whatever. Yeah. I hate classic rock. We've talked about that. And somebody argued with me a couple weeks ago saying, well, the 80s is classic rock. No, it's fucking not. 80s is 80s and classic rock is anything before that because it all fucking sucks. Okay. Hair metal is its own thing. Now, what do you guys differentiate though between butt rock and hair metal?
Gnome, I'll throw that over to you.
I was you go ahead and give us the definition, and then I'll see if I can chime in. Butt rock versus hair metal.
Here's what I know about butt rock, because only Jake has talked about butt rock. If you Google butt rock, you just find weird looking porn. So what I will say is that butt rock is that of like Def Leppard and the Eagles and those types of bands, whereas hair metal's the more of the Motley Crues and
Poison
and that sort of stuff. But I don't know if I'm correct. Jake, is that?
To me, butt rock was when girls shook their butts to rock when the guys got a little too old and they realized their titties sucked, so they wanted to see their asses. Hair metal was when the dude still wanted to see her titties, so he grew his hair just like hers so they could both move it out of their ways and lick each other's nipples. That's my definition, and I think it's true. I think it holds true, and I'm hoping I'm right.
Hence why when you Google it, you just get weird stone porn. So
Exactly, aka the Stone Safe House porno.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't get that much into it. I do like the definition of the girls shaking their butt to the music. I think that's very important, specifically in that day where the cocaine was pure and the music was banging. You know what I mean? So I do think that as it pertains to hair metal, I probably like hair metal more than I like, let's say, just regular rock in the 80s. I mean, you look at like the Springsteens or the people like that. I tend to relate more to hair metal. What about you, Noel?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100% agree. As we'll get into certain topics and lists later, hair metal is definitely where my heart was at. I have respect for all the rock in the 80s. I like it all, but if you're giving me the choice, I'm going hair metal. 100% hair metal.
I completely agree. Now, Jake, when it comes to hair metal, so you define that more or less as you have to move hair away from your nipples so somebody can get licked. But when it comes to hair metal itself, what about hair metal do you like?
I like the aspect that that was the type of metal where somebody actually sang in an octave that is hard to reach. Mm-hmm. And it took now the downfall of that is, though, I feel like every hair metal essentially almost starts to sound the same. And it's almost that thing, like if you get into like Swedish black death metal, and I know they don't relate, but my point is on this, you listen to it and you're like, okay, it's that deep, and you're like, that almost sounds the same. When you get to hair metal, it's guys singing at such high octaves that they almost start to sound the same. And that's the one problem I have with it. However, it was the most bangable, fun, awesome, fucking cocaine-driven Mustang 5.0 good fucking time that you could have with the rock and roll scene, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because you just got out of the 60s, which fuck those people. I hate hippies. They stink. You just sat around singing about fucking rocks and wanted to hump a tree or some dendrophiliac fucking shit. Then you go to the 70s where they're still not over their acid trip, and then they want to hold hands and do some other shit, and then they want to talk about some war that nobody gave a shit about. Then you get to hair metal where it's like, you know what? No, metal's about fucking, let's just bang this chick. Let's fucking snort some coke off her titties. Let's drink some Coca-Cola. Let's go ride in a fucking fast car, fly a jet, be irresponsible with our money. It's the epitome of my fucking 20s. It is the best introduction to metal we had that gets us to the music we are today. So fuck yes, all day. Bald Eagle Freedom Party, motherfuckers.
I mean, I do have to chime in real quick and say, this is a little bit off topic, but I'm going to bring it right back home. I am super into time travel. Like, if those have listened to Dads on DayQuill, and if those have subscribed to our Extra Dose, our Patreon show, I am huge into time travel. I would love to go many places, but if you gave me one specific place, send me back to 1984, and I want to be 20 years old. That's where I want to go. I want to live out the back half of the 80s as a young adult, just fucking cocaine, hair metal, chicks, and fast cars. That's what I want to be.
Chevy Chase actually modified a hot tub for you to be able to do that in.
Yeah,
and you can come back and you can start the website Jugal.
I don't care what anybody says. That movie is so fucking amazing.
I love Hot Tub Time Machine. But it's like the epitome of the 80s, right? You have all the neon colors, you have the all the hairspray in the world, you have the lack of technology. It was a great decade in a sense where even kids would have to go outside and play.
Yeah.
And so when you're talking about being an adolescent in the 80s, when you're talking about, growing up in the 80s, kind of like your aunt, all that sort of stuff, it wasn't as technologically influenced as it was today. And you can hear that in the music. Like, you can recreate the music today. But when it first premiered in the 80s, it was brand new. It had that feel to it. It created a mood. It was set on fire, dude. I mean, and I realize, I brought up Springsteen. Like, I'm not a big Springsteen fan, but I do think that even Springsteen had some influence on 80s music and even coming into today.
Yeah.
So that gets me to this next question for you guys, though. When it comes to our favorite frontmen in the 80s, now we already talked Axl Rose. We already talked How I'm Slash to Jake's Axl. What's your if you're going to rank these, what are your qualifications for ranking these, Gnome?
Okay. So you actually have to have talent. Like, it can't just be some, one-off, one-hit wonder hair metal band. That doesn't count. You've got to have success. You've got to have story. You've got to be just outright dangerous drugs, sex, and rock and roll. And it's just got to be in your face. And I would like to say a little bit, the more Aquanet, the better. The tighter the clothes, the better. Axl Rose, I know we already brought him up. He was on my list, and he was number 2 on my list. So I will say that because Axl Rose was in a different category. He is the biggest fucking asshole that the 80s metal scene has ever seen. He would cause shows to get canceled before they even got on stage. People would not get refunded. And you're talking about sold out stadiums, and they didn't even get to strike a chord because he is a complete douchebag. But man, I mean, I don't know that there's if you force me to rank 5 top albums of all time, Appetite for Destruction is going to be in that list. It is Guns N' Roses is just that high level, and I think they were a little bit ahead of their time, and Axl was just too much of a douchebag to let them collapse the way they collapsed. But they were on such a fast, short ride. But that would be my categories. You have to have talent. and you've got to have big hair, tight clothes, and just out in the scene. Dangerous lifestyle.
I agree. Axl Rose sucks. I mean, we got David Lee Roth.
Also on my list.
We had David Coverdale, whatever. All these fucking Vince Neil. Fucking, I know him. Fuck him. He sucks. My favorite frontman of the 80s is Vagina, because the woman's bush was prevalent and it had the most hair that we ever seen. There was tight
with
clothes.
or without Aquanet, may I add?
But it doesn't matter, dude. I would still go down it. But no, but in all seriousness, no, that's the best frontman of the 80s. There was a reason you're rocking out. There's a reason you're going to a concert. You're trying to get laid. The bush is a great thing. It also brings me to the point. I love the song Welcome to the Jungle, because whenever I went down on a girl, that's what I thought of. I thought of like moving and becoming George of the Jungle and trying to hit that clit like a fucking tree, dude. If I could rank an 80s frontman, it is fucking the bush of a fucking vagina. And fuck you guys for thinking it. But here's the thing. You're thinking about it now, you're like, man, it makes sense. It does. Because every blonde...
I hear the scream.
Every blonde was a brunette downstairs back then. They were all fucking brunettes, dude. There was no, like, I don't think blonde pussy hair existed back then. I really don't. I think they were all fucking brunettes. And then all of a sudden, just something, there was so much bleach in the air. It finally fucking happened.
Speaking of Bleach, welcome to the Bleach Bros podcast. The one thing that I will tell you is that when you said welcome to the jungle, you sat there and you're like, you're giving us the description in the camera, right? So you're showing like you're pulling the bush off to the sides, almost like you're going through the forest, right? And the only thing that's going through my head is you said welcome to the jungle when the guitar fucking strums on there and you hear that howl that happens at the beginning of the movie or the beginning of the song. That's exactly what I'm thinking, is that howl's happening is you're just like, you're just opening that up.
Exactly, dude. She's fucking turning into Lassie at that point. She's going to tell somebody that I fell into her well.
So my definition of what makes a good frontman. So I agree with you. No, there has to be some success. You have to have the talent, but you also have to have the success with the band. You can't be a one and done album wise. You can't be a one and done single wise. You have to have had some form of monetary success as a band, number one. Number two, there has to be multiple characters within the band that you become the lead of, or at least you become the face of. So, we've talked about Axl Rose, obviously Slash. Slash was a personality in and of himself. So being able to carry the personality of the band is huge. And the number three, you have to be a crazy motherfucker. You have to be a crazy motherfucker to be a frontman. So that's my qualifications of frontman. Doesn't matter the color of your vagina here. Doesn't even matter if you have a vagina. Those are my qualifications there. But Jake, I want to start with you. Do you have any honorable mentions of frontmen that you want to throw out there?
Yeah, who's the guy for the fucking fake band from that documentary, Spinal Tap? Fucking David St. Hubbins. Yeah, fuck yeah, dude. No, that's a fucking real thing. Because here's the thing, and I'm going to make a true point here. When growing up, and don't deny this, when we were kids, we thought Spinal Tap was a real fucking band.
Yeah.
And when you watch it, you're like, that's because it was the epitome of what a frontman fucking is. I guess the other one would be Dee Snider from Twisted Sister, knowing that he filed his teeth and he did what he did. And I think those are my top two guys because they were above reality, if it makes sense. They seemed like cartoon fucking characters of people like that. There's no way that guy's fucking real. Mind you, one's not, but it's the point. Dee Snider to me too was the second one, going like, he's like if you put Corey Taylor, fucking Andrew Dice Clay, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Jim Carrey in a fucking and Axl Rose in a blender and had it come out. That's what fucking Dee Snider is to me.
Makes sense.
That's an interesting definition. Gnome, do you have any honorable mentions?
I had 4 people written down. So my first one that I was going to bring up was Dee Snider, Twisted Sister. And what I liked about Dee Snider was he actually went to a court level to fight for the music. And a lot of people didn't realize that he's really fucking smart. And he was able to handle his business and put people in their fucking place. Just because he put on a persona didn't mean that he was some numbskull that didn't know shit. And I think Twisted Sister gets wrapped up in almost like a one-hit wonder kind of a band, but they definitely were not. And they were very, very big. And he was definitely on the list. David Lee Roth was on my list because him with Van Halen, I mean, Van Halen in itself is, you could have a whole episode about that. It's just wild. But Roth over Hagar any day. Axl Rose, I've already mentioned, and then Jake's personal favorite, apparently, my favorite would be Vince Neil. I mean, the guy.
Really?
Yeah, I love everything about Motley Crue. That Tommy Lee, Mars, Nikki Sixx, that band, just the fact that not a single one of them is dead yet, still to this day, just astonishes me.
I'll drive you out to his Wild Side bar in Pahrump, Nevada, and you'll have a great fucking time, let me tell you.
Wow. So I have a couple honorable mentions. Dee Snider's obviously on there, and Gnome for the same reason. When they were trying to do the censorship, was it Al Gore's wife or something? Tipper Gore, is that what her name was? That was trying to do the parental advisory stickers.
Yep, I believe so.
He just fought tooth and nail against her, so he's definitely an honorable mention for me. I will tell you, I did meet David Coverdale from Whitesnake. And that dude's legit. Like, I really enjoyed my several interactions with him. His wife was really cool. Her brother was really cool. So that was pretty cool to meet them. Also, Whitesnake was like really big when I was growing up, and my dad would listen to him all the time. So that was like really, really cool. But my top 5 for frontmen, so it's kind of stupid. Bret Michaels is number 5. I think Bret Michaels probably reached more popularity after the 80s. But Bret Michaels was the first person to make a fucking mixed or a sex tape with Pamela Anderson. And I fucking love that.
But also, Bret Michaels is like the Wish.com Axl Rose, dude.
He is.
You put a fucking bandana on him, you tell him to sing. I mean, if any other band could have sang Every Rose Has Its Thorn and you felt the same way about it, it'd be fucking them, dude. Like, that's the fucking truth right there.
And the fact of the matter is I think you could probably have Damn Yankees sing Every Rose Has Its Thorn, and it would turn out exactly the same with the same amount of success. But I think...
And Scorpions and... I agree with you there. Yeah.
But as a personality, I thought that Bret Michaels was really cool. So he's number 5. Number 4 for me is Axl Rose. From a talent perspective, I think he's probably number 1 or number 2.
Agree.
But the guy was just a douchebag, man. We've already talked about that. Like, there were riots before Black Lives even mattered that they would try to get their tickets back. Like, no offense to black people, but still, these riots were just taking place and just craziness, dude. And people were just fucking up all over the place. It was just crazy. Another frontman that I really like was Joe Elliott of Def Leppard. I will say that Def Leppard has severely fallen off the tracks. I like Def Leppard quite a bit, but after Joe had throat surgery, like, it was never the same from there. Vince Neil of Motley Crue, he's number 2. And I really struggle with my number 1. And again, it goes back to personality. Sebastian Bach from Skid Row.
Oh, yeah.
Sebastian Bach was...
Skid Row is one of those bands, that like doesn't get enough mention, but it's
true.
It's funny, and I'm going to interrupt you for a second, B-Word, and you can get back to it, but it's like funny, like, because nobody ever is going to talk about like Steve Whiteman, the lead singer of Kix, right? Like, there's the one thing that we forget, there's so many fucking hair metal bands that you never heard of that had that, because the problem with them is, and Gnome said this, is they all feel like a one-hit wonder to us. Like, I grew up most of my life thinking that Too Hot for Teacher was sung by Motley Crue, just because, fuck it, I didn't really look up the band. I just liked the song, and I wanted to see titties and Varsity Blues. Okay? Like, I didn't care about the rest behind it, because, like I said, Bret Michaels is a Wish.com Axl Rose. Like, there are some bands that you knew, okay, I know that one song, I'm good, but the rest, it's like, it all sounded almost the same, to the fact that there could be 90 more other fucking bands out there, and it's all the same blonde-haired dude with a brunette bush yelling out shit like a fucking woman in tight pants and a great fucking guitarist. Mind you, I know we're talking about frontmen, but there were the thing that made a band different in that time was the differentiation of the guy behind him. And what I mean by that is, you're my Axl Rose, right? That's why we remember Guns N' Roses more than anything. We remember Def Leppard because of the one-armed drummer. We remember Motley Crue because of Tommy Lee's dick. Okay, there are just things that you remember more than just the hair metal screaming. And I think that's what made those bands in our eyes stand out more, because, like I said, if you put up Warrant, Kix, fucking Poison, Scorpions, all those, if you just play different random tracks off an album and you didn't pick out the hit song, you're probably going to get fucking guess wrong.
Right.
Am I wrong there?
No, I think, like with Warrant, I think they sang Apple Pie, Ratt sang Round and Round. We've already talked about it. Every Rose Has Its Thorn with Poison. These are the types of songs that you could really.
Wait, Poison sang that song originally?
Yes.
Oh fuck! I thought that was Guns. See, I already fucked up this episode. I thought it was Guns N' Roses originally.
And welcome to the show, Jake. But it's one of those things that like literally you can interchange some of these bands and some of the songs, and really go from there. I mean, even Foghat or Journey or some of these other bands could really just be interchangeable with some of the songs that are on there. But Jake, did you give us your top 5?
No, I mean, like I don't really have it. That's the problem. I can name singers out of each one, but to me, more importantly, was just the band. I looked at the band because I mean, look, I can't even name the fucking songs for the right people. Then I just listened to the music. I was going to ask you this though, like, do you equate? Because if I put bands in the top 5, Kiss would be there. Do you take bands out of a different era and still put them into? Because to me, Kiss was originally a 70s band, but I feel like they did some hair metal going into it.
I think of Kiss more as a 70s band, and that's kind of the same thing with ZZ Top. ZZ Top was really a 70s band before you get into their, some of the things in the 80s. I don't know. That's just kind of where I equate them. And I still think that they're rock. I still think that specifically Kiss is hair metal. I just don't see them in that 80s genre. What about you, Gnome?
Right. I would totally agree. I could definitely believe an argument where Kiss is the biggest influence of where hair metal came from. The flash, the flare, the glam, the stadium shows, the pyro. But I would never consider them an 80s. I would only consider them a 70s. And I'm sure they put out stuff in the 80s, but I would equate them with the 70s movement and not with what we're discussing.
I kind of feel like it would be like if you were to talk about Motley Crue in the 90s, or if you were to talk about John Bon Jovi in the 90s, there's still an 80s band. Like that's like Ozzy Osbourne. Ozzy Osbourne's arguably one of the best rockers that we've ever known. Right. And so, but he was Black Sabbath and he's Ozzy Osbourne. And yes, he had a lot of success in the 80s, but I still think of him as a 70s artist, Do
you feel though, like Bon Jovi you mentioned, right? Do you feel like they had more success in the late 90s, early 2000s with This Is My Life or whatever they did before that?
No, I don't. I think that I think that when you're talking about, some of that, I think that Bon Jovi and Aerosmith kind of had that same time frame where they were coming out, and that was in the later, not coming out, but having the success was more in the later 80s time frame. I think that's where they were taking off. Yeah, they were rolling into the 90s. That's almost like trying to say, okay, Nirvana or some of this grunge was an 80s band, even though they started in the 80s, they weren't really having their success until the early 90s. You guys get what I'm saying here?
Yeah,
I do. Do you, so just like I asked if you could take a band out of a different era and put them into that where they transitioned in like Kiss did, do you have a band in mind that was a hair metal band and transitioned out of it and became better afterwards? Because I do, but I wanted to see if you guys did.
Metallica.
That's a good answer. Metallica is a good answer. I think you could even throw in Anthrax in that same vein. That's with Metallica.
See, mine's Pantera.
Because
Pantera
100%.
actually started out as a hair metal band. Philip Anselmo just went bald, so I think that's why they got rid of it. And thank God they did, because fuck yeah, Pantera is fucking amazing.
Yeah, 100%.
Actually, just metal.
Yeah,
but like they were still a good hair metal band in the sense that they were right at the tail end of it. I think so. They were smart enough to get out of it. I think Metallica is the best answer, and commend B-Word on this, because they were in the middle of it and they embraced it, but they also did their own fucking thing the whole time.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's sort of like, and I equate them to like System of a Down at the time when they were coming out. They still sort of did their own fucking thing. They made it through. It was relevant with the music, but they continued on. And so that's how I'd equate Metallica in that time genre. But that's a great fucking answer, B-Word.
Well, it seems like right now is probably a good time to take a break, so we'll be right back.
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Mike.
I'm Tabby.
And we're the Grace Taproom Podcast. Be sure to check out our link tree at linktr.ee/Grace Taproom Podcast 2.
There you can find our partnership with Hollowed Sense, buy us a coffee because we definitely need it, all of our socials, listening platforms, and our merch store.
And if you love our show enough, please feel free to subscribe to our Patreon. We have 3 amazing tiers starting from $3, $5, and $10 with a bunch of great content all over the place.
Thanks for listening, guys. Don't text and drive, don't drink and drive. Always drink responsibly.
You heard her. Do it.
Taproom closed.
Bleach Bros podcast is proud to align itself with Jerky Pro, a beef jerky manufacturer established by military and paramilitary veterans.
Available in 3-ounce or 1-pound bags with great flavors such as honey glazed, teriyaki, red hot, apple cinnamon, original, peppered, sweet barbecue, and if you're ballsy enough, nuclear.
Be sure to use our promo code to get some of the best jerky on the market. Use Bleach Bros 5, all lowercase, to take advantage of this offer today. Welcome to the jungle. We've got fun and games. We've got B-Word and Jake and Gnome. And we're calling each other names, I guess. I don't know how to say that, really.
I wish we had the guy to introduce us of that shitty documentary that you showed us. Like, that would be the best intro to the Bleach Bros.
Oh, wouldn't it?
Tonight on Bleach Bros, Jake loses his mind and B-Word has to put up with him. And sometimes he went crazy.
Yeah, that would be the start of it. Almost like a VH1 behind the music. Like, I would be absolutely perfect with that. That would be awesome. That'd be awesome.
I wish we got famous enough like 80s hair metal bands, and so did Dads on DayQuill, in the sense that we have to have a relapse moment where, like, I'm living in a house with B-Word and B-Word's just trying to help me get through the rest of my life. Like, I'm just a fucking train wreck and he's just there like, I fucking love the guy, but he's the hater. And it's like, I'm like DMX on every episode. Like, everybody's like, oh, he's doing good today. And then, oh, fuck you, I'm gonna do my thing. Fucking lose it. Speaking of losing it,
before you get it's a shame that you guys are not a video podcast with like just amazing video editing skills at this moment, because this episode would be absolutely amazing to put on YouTube and have pop-up video like VH1 during the whole episode. Like, every time we talk, little facts about the bands pop up. Oh, that'd be great. Yeah.
Well, not only that, it would
Jake
just be
fades his pubes.
It would just be Jake's text messages. Like, Jake's text messages would just pop up.
I can't. No, I would love to text during the show and just have like the illiterate seed like just show on the fucking screen, and just me, and then you guys chime in and be like, Jake, we're fucking live. Fuck you, suck my dick. Just like me go off like I do, because I'll admit today, like, we were all texting and you guys were trying to get ready for the show, and Gnome just goes, before Jake buries this conversation, I'm going to try to get this question answered. And then, of course, fuck you, I want to bury this.
By the way, the second I sent that, I copied it because I knew you were going to bury it. So if you kept texting, I was just going to copy and paste it right back into the chat.
Oh, that's funny, because I guess I didn't even read that part of the chat, because the moment Jake goes off, dude, I'm just done. I'm just done reading the fucking text.
Clear the notifications.
Yeah.
B-Word's the reason that they invented that little arrow at the bottom of like the text message thing, so it'll just scroll automatically for you and give you all read, because like I'm the reason, or I'm the guy that everybody hates, and B-Word's the reason going, we need to fucking fix this guy. Like, just make a fucking algorithm to get rid of him. Because I've admitted on this show, like, AI, for me, I can't wait to help the Earth later in life. Okay, like in the 80s, they talked about Terminator and everything, right? And like robots are going to take over. I'm making robots stupid for you guys. Me and Dome are doing our fucking best by typing stupid and making AI think that this is how people actually think. While you guys are over there feeding into the Apple machine and all that, be like, I need to be proper and everything. No, be illiterate as fuck, all you kids out there. Do it. Because guess what? When the robots try to take over, they're not going to try to duck you to death. I'm going to tell you that right now. If they do, they're just going to go to the pond and start throwing little baby duckies at you. And what's the worst thing to happen? You fucking have Peking duck for dinner with some dim sum? Yeah, not like what happened to B-Word. B-Word's getting fucked right in the ass by a robot.
Well, on that note, if we do happen to do the whole hot tub time machine thing and we do end up with a Jugal, I would just say that Jugal would probably translate that for us. However, that's probably not going to happen. So with that, boys, we're talking about 80s music. Jake's talking about nonsense, but we're just going to continue the game. Gnome, talk to me a little bit about 80s music, like just 80s music in general. What were some of the best things to come out of 80s music? Like, we've talked about genres, we talked about the influence on music today, but generically or band specific, what were some of the best things for you in 80s music?
I would say, I mean, I didn't get to live it at the proper age because I was young, but what I would think of the 80s music is it brought a lot of different people together for styles of music. And there were so many different styles of music, but everybody, they loved, I mean, yeah, you had your hardcore people that like, no, I'm only a Metallica and I'm the big four and that's it. I don't listen to that stupid shit that's this boy pop band like hair metal, and vice versa. But I think the majority of people, you could go to a Run DMC show, you could go to a Poison show, you could go to all these other one-hit wonder shows and do all those things. It brought a lot of passion to people in the scene. Like, just, it's wild. Like, cocaine's a hell of a drug, but it was pure and all over the 80s.
It was a crazy time that none of us experienced, in real life, I guess. Like, we were either in the sack for several years, or we were just growing fetuses that just needed to shit on ourselves. But looking back at the 80s, dude, I agree with you, Gnome. Super influential. Like, I think of that "We Are the World" or whatever, that song that came together for UNICEF or whatever it was. And you had artists like Michael Jackson and Stevie Wonder and Lionel Richie meeting up with Dolly Parton and Kenny Rogers and other artists that you would have never seen a crossover, and they're all singing "We Are the World," right? It was just this crazy time period. You had bands like Queen, and you had bands like Metallica that had two entirely different sounds but ran off of the same influences. I just think it was a really cool decade. Jake, I'm going to throw this back over to you. Go again, specific to 80s music. What's your opinion on some of this music styles and some of the bands that came out of the 80s?
Well, you brought up a point I was going to make is it was the first time we actually saw where music was starting to meld together to develop to where we are now. In the sense, like, when you had like any other decade before that, it was, this is music, and then they have their style and they do this and they come out. Like, country was country, and rock was rock, and disco was disco. And this was the first time where we started seeing, I mean, the electronic influence was a big thing where we really started using technology to get into music. But where you saw bands playing together that you never thought they would, we started seeing crossovers. We started seeing, like, music videos was a big thing, where it was like, it became more of a showcase of what you can do to show your fan base that was more than your music, and not just being like on stage singing. It was like, what can you do with a music video to make it better? But the other thing is just the fact that you had people that actually finally got to a point of, like, to a level that we never saw before. Like, Michael Jackson won so many fucking awards for Thriller, and that was unprecedented. You finally saw people, like, stand up for, not just, like, hippies tried to do this, like, stand up for rights and sing for a cause, but people actually raised money and did causes. Like, We Are the World's a perfect example of that.
I agree. I think it's I think it was one of the eras that you had so many different musical influences, from Madonna to Michael Jackson to Motley Crue, to Metallica, to Pantera, to Kenny Rogers. I mean, we had so many different things in the 80s. We kind of look at now, we have so many different influences now, but when you look at some artists like let's say a Post Malone, or let's say Tupac, or even Johnny Cash's later stuff, you're looking at a lot of influences taken from the 80s in general, from a lot of these bands in this era. And for me, the 80s was one of those cool places where it was available in a sense where concerts were all over the place. It seemed they were probably a lot more affordable than they are today. They were probably a lot more shittier than they are today, let's be honest. But it was that teen driven music era, and a lot of the media was strictly paper. It was all magazines. It was all television commercials. The record stores. Like, I would love to go through a record store in the 80s, find an 8-track, find a cassette tape. That would be like a museum today. It would be such a good find. I would just have a blast with it. But let's finish it out with this, guys. The Everlasting Jukebox 80s bands. So we've got a whole bunch of music to choose from in the 80s, whether it be frontmen of hair metal bands, whether it be that hair metal song that was probably a one-hit wonder that we just love. We always introduce the Everlasting Jukebox. We try to talk about what our qualifications are. So, Jake, what is your qualification for the Everlasting Jukebox for 80s hair bands, and what are you looking for as you rank them?
What song did I want to rock out to the most? Also, what songs I would actually play on a jukebox. Like when I used to live in Vegas, I used to go to Mickey's Q's and Brews all the fucking time and play. And they had a jukebox, and we had a set list of what me and the travesty would play while we shot pool. And me, my brother, him, and a bunch of people would go, and we'd all pick out certain songs. And the funny thing is, most of those songs were 80s hair metal songs because the travesty was really into it. And so most of those make my list. But it's, as always, with the Everlasting Jukebox, playability, something I can listen to over and over again. Funny thing is, I learned more about these songs again, like who actually sang them. Because, again, to me, I played them, I liked them, and then I went, oh, that's the fucking band. That's cool.
What about you, Gnome? How are you ranking these?
So the way I'm looking at it is these are songs that had a big influence on me when I was younger. And then even still to this day, if, I have a lot of different playlists on Spotify, and, 80s metal is definitely one of them. And when these songs come on, they are never skipped. Like, these are my heartstring influential, ride or die 80s hairband metal, as I would call it, for that time frame. These are the zero skip songs.
Okay. I'm going to rank these more or less on nostalgia, for nostalgia purposes. My dad was a big 80s rock guy, and so was my mom even. She wasn't an 80s rock guy, let's clarify that. But they both listened to a lot of 80s rock, so I had a lot of influence growing up in this genre. And so for me, specific to hair bands, I'm going to kind of rank these as what I would hear growing up most often, and then I'm going to submit them that way. So Gnome, you're our guest. Let me start out with you. I know that you have at least one honorable mention. What are your honorable mentions tonight?
As we were talking, I do have to throw. I'll have two. I have to throw out there "Cherry Pie" by Warrant, because it's just too good to not have on my list at some place. It can't be in my top 5, but I will throw it as an honorable mention. My next honorable mention is actually not as well known of a song, but it was the intro song to Jackass 3, and that's "The Kids Are Back" by Twisted Sister. That song fucking slaps. It's such a good song, and when you think of Twisted Sister, people will not tell you that song, but that song is fucking killer. So those would be my two honorable mentions.
What about you, Jake?
My two honorable mentions, one, Gnome said, "Cherry Pie." Fucking love that track. Love
it's even better music video.
Yeah, everything it means.
It's even better in a strip club.
Yeah.
We've all heard it in a Vegas strip club. We have. Come on.
Yeah.
And my next one's "Welcome to the Jungle" for the same reason. It's my favorite song to eat pussy out to. Not gonna deny it. Like I just love, but that both those songs remind me of vagina. Two of my favorite things. I came from vagina in the 80s. I want to go back to a vagina. It's the epitome of a man's crawling through life. But no, those are my two honorable mentions.
I think that you guys both have some good honorable mentions there. I have two honorable mentions as well. I've got "You Give Love a Bad Name" by Bon Jovi.
Good call.
I listened to that song over and over and over and over and over again growing up. Bon Jovi is kind of one of those, I don't want to call it a guilty pleasure. Like, I'm not going to choose to have it on, but whenever it's on, I'm not going to turn it, if that makes sense. Like, I'll rock out to it. I'll sing the lyrics a little bit. So that's my first honorable mention. Dr. Feelgood by Motley Crue is my other one. And Dr. Feelgood is one of those that, first off, Motley Crue is absolutely crazy. I'm sure that both of you guys watch The Dirt on Netflix. That's just a fucking epic documentary, biopic, whatever you want to call it.
Biopic.
But I just, Motley Crue is super talented. I mean, all across the board. So, they have to make some sort of level on the list. So, Jake, I'm going to throw this over to you. Let's go reverse order. So 5-1. What's your number 5 that you're going to enter into the Everlasting Jukebox?
"Don't Stop Believing" by Journey. And fuck you guys if it ain't hair metal. Here's the thing. It's the epitome of an 80s song. It's the number one karaoke song. You can't get it out of your head. When it plays, you're like, fuck, but you're also like, fuck yes. It's that song that you don't want to hear, but you can't stop listening to it, if that makes sense. Whether it's the Filipino boy singing it or the original singer. My dad was the biggest Journey fan. You know that B-word. My dad was in a Journey cover band. One of my favorite stories ever is when I was supposed to go to a 7th grade dance. I remember me and you were going to meet up, and my dad said, "Hey, Jake, I have an outfit for you." And I was like, okay. And it was his old Journey like outfit that he would wear on stage. And I walk in, the closet where all the video, you remember my house, P-word.
Mhm.
And he hands me a vest and some leather pants, and they're both matching leather. And I go, "Where's the shirt?" He goes, "You don't need a shirt." I'm like, "I'm going to a 7th grade dance." He goes, "Fucking women will love it." I'm thinking, what the hell? But that was my dad. And my dad rocked Journey all day. So it was always playing regardless, but that's the song that makes me think of the 80s. So that's my number 5.
Gnome, what's your number 5?
Panama by Van Halen.
Oh, fuck yes.
It's such a good song, and even better in it literally just escaped me. Oh my god, the movie! God damn it, Superbad. With when they're getting ready to burn the cop car to the ground, and they're just doing donuts in the parking lot while Panama is blaring. Van Halen belongs somewhere on this list. I would put them at 5, and Panama is by far my favorite song of theirs.
Oh, that's a good pick, man. That's a really good pick. I'm going to go with Sweet Child of Mine by Guns N' Roses. Again, I cannot deny Axl Rose and Guns N' Roses talent, man. That was just such a good song. The meaning behind the song is a little different because I always thought it was about a child, like Sweet Child of Mine. It's not. It's about a girlfriend. So, we kind of take it there a little bit. But I thought it was a great song, so that's my number 5. Jake, I'm going to shoot it back over to you.
I feel, before I get into it, I feel bad. Like, this is one of those lists where I feel like I'm just picking top songs, and I feel you guys are going to have a better list than me, but my next one's Hot for Teacher. Hot for Teacher.
Good one.
Which I've learned is by Van Halen, who I've always hated on my whole life. Didn't even know songs they sang, but fuck them. It makes me think of Varsity Blues and Nipples. I like that. I like that song, though. It's a great song. Because here's to be honest, there are songs on my list. I thought Pour Some Sugar on Me was by Bon Jovi. I thought Hot for Teacher was by fucking Motley Crue. Like, I don't know anything about these fucking songs. I just know I like them. And I'm just being upfront here. But Hot for Teacher is my number 4.
Nomi, what's your number 4?
My number 4 is also a Bon Jovi song, and it is Bad Medicine. That song is, I absolutely love Bad Medicine by Bon Jovi. It absolutely. Runaway is a very close second for me for Bon Jovi, but Bad Medicine definitely takes the cake.
Didn't know they sang
That's actually a really good song, though. That Bon Jovi had some hits, dude. Like, let's not pretend that Bon Jovi was some bad band, and I'm not saying that you guys are saying that, but yeah. So my number 4 is going to be Cherry Pie by Warrant.
Okay.
For all the reasons that you guys said before, it is the best. If it's probably top 5 strip club songs, period. Like, any genre, any music style. So for that, I'm going to go with that. So
nice. Jake, what's your number 3?
We're not going to take it, Twisted Sister. Whether it's the Dave Chappelle show where he's talking about white people getting pulled over, we're not gonna take it, or just the fucking song. I just like that song. I don't know. It's how I felt through my youth. So it's one of those ones that makes sense. Like I said, I'm a big D. Snyder fan. I like the song. I think it's one of those you can play it whenever and you feel right about it. Like growing up, like I could play it for my 14-year-old daughter now, and she's gonna be like, I can relate to that. And I feel like that's what that song was made for. So,
Nomi, What about you?
Still of the Night by Whitesnake. It is so fucking good. Whitesnake's known for a lot of things, and it's not that song. I actually watched I'd say maybe 10 years ago, I was watching some channel where they were doing a concert, and that's the song that they close with. And it is such a good fucking song. And actually, Hailstorm did a cover of it, and they fucking killed it. Lizzie Hale absolutely killed it. But Whitesnake, it almost crept into the top 2, but I had to keep it at 3. Still of the Night by Whitesnake.
I was at the Aftershock Metal Fest in Sacramento in 2017, and I'm walking past one of the stages, and it just so happens to be Hailstorm on the stage, and she ends up rocking that song before it was even released. I think it was before it was released. You guys might have to correct me on that one. But God damn it, I stopped in my tracks and I just went, holy fucking shit. This is awesome. Her cover of that was incredible, dude. One of the best covers, I think, just in general. So my next song is actually going to be by Def Leppard as well. And my song is going to be Pour Some Sugar on Me. Again, strip club song.
They sang that?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Good to know. Write it down.
Pour Some Sugar on Me is just a really good song. Great music video. So one of the things about Whitesnake that was really interesting back in the day. So again, for those of you that didn't grow up in the MTV era, MTV used to play music videos all the time. And Tawny Katane was the video girl for the Whitesnake videos.
Yeah.
God damn it. She was hot. And the whole, oh man. So yeah, for fear of getting Woody right now, I'm going to throw it back over to Jake. Jake, what's your next one?
I used a whole bottle of cocoa butter on that chick, dude. Like that was one of those. That's where I learned how to jerk off ambidextrously. I started using my left hand. I got so tired. Rock You Like a Hurricane. Number 2. Nice. It's hard to not make that number 1. That was that song. If I went anywhere to a bar or whatever, I had put that on the jukebox and I knew everybody was fucking happy I did. Not like Don't Stop Believing. It's one of those things like everybody sort of give you that look, right? But there are songs that you can go to a jukebox and make everybody of a certain, like of almost any age happy. And Rock You Like a Hurricane feels like that song. It's a party. It is fun. It's low down enough to make everybody happy, in my opinion. So I could rock out to that song all fucking day. And the Scorpions sang that. I knew that much about that, so I'm proud of myself on that one. B-word, before we get back to Gnome, what's your number 2?
Rock and Roll All Night by Kiss.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Again, is Kiss a hair metal band? Yes. Is Kiss a glam metal band? Maybe not. But they fall into this category for me. Rock and Roll All Night, Party Every Day. It's the rock and roll anthem of that decade. You know what I mean? And that's what I think the other bands really tried to emulate Kiss in a lot of different ways. But Kiss knocked it out of the park with that song. So that's my number 2.
Nomi?
I couldn't have a top 5, and even I couldn't do a top 3 without putting this band in there. And it was very close between 1 and 2. But number 2 is Paradise City by Guns N' Roses. Appetite for Destruction, I've said it earlier on the episode, is definitely one of my top albums of all time. I love Mr. Brownstone. I love Welcome to the Jungle. Night Train's fantastic as well. But Paradise City, it's just this ramps you up song, and it's just every time you hear it, you got to crank it up. And so that's my number 2.
All right, Jake, what's your number 1?
Motley Crue, Too Young to Fall in Love. My favorite Motley Crue song. I like that song. Great fucking track. The exact epitome of how it is to be growing up in the early 20s. Like when you're going out to the bars, you're trying to figure out what you're doing with life. I dig the track. I think they killed it with that. I think there are so many songs by if I could name it, Motley Crue is probably my favorite hair metal band in general. But that song really speaks to me.
That one, it's hard on the spot. I don't know that I can choose the best hair metal band on the spot. I would probably have to do some research on that and try to figure that out. But good for you for identifying that, because that's pretty good there. So I'm going to go ahead and give my number 1, and then Nomi, I'll shoot it over to you and we'll finish up with you there. Okay. I think I'm going to do Girls, Girls, Girls by Motley Crue. And again, a lot of my songs I realize that they're strip club songs, but candidly,
that's what hair metal is. It's all about push, baby.
And that's my point. When I was listening to these songs, I didn't even know what a boner was. So strip clubs were not my thing, but I just remember how catchy these were. And so that's why I got to end with some Motley at the end, man. So Nomi, what's your number 1?
They have so many songs. Motley Crue is by far the best hair metal band. It just hands down. That's what they are. Everything you saw, if you have not seen The Dirt, watch it. It is like somebody wrote this movie like this couldn't have been real. And it is a biopic. It is all real shit. I believe everything in that movie actually fucking happened because they are absolutely wild. But you have songs Wild Side, Kickstart My Heart, Girls, Girls, Girls. This song has already been mentioned as your honorable mention, B-word, but my hands down favorite song is Dr. Feelgood. The second that song starts, it just fucking amps me up. Dr. Feelgood by Motley Crue, number 1 hair metal song from the Gnome, hands down.
I love that. And I love you two boys, even though Jake doesn't think that I love him. But
he can give me some Dr. Feelgood later. Suck my dick.
So, Gnome, thank you again for coming on. I know we do a lot of stuff with the hut. I know we do a lot of stuff outside. We've got message groups up, the yin yang and whatever. But, dude, seriously, from the Bleach Bros, and I'm speaking on my own behalf because Jake will tell you to suck his dick. I certainly appreciate you, dude. I love everything that we're doing together. I love everything that you and Jake are doing. It's good shit.
No, I do too. And I was going to say thank you, B-Word, because you threw this idea out there to us. And I poo-pooed on it like everything else. But the fact that you said, should we do it on the hut here? And this was a really good rundown behind the scenes. I mean, we do talk about it. We've talked about behind the curtain. You had a really good rundown. It was very thoughtful points, but it was more fun than I imagined. Because when I heard 80s, it's like, okay, I was in a sack. I didn't live most of it. But I think we can say this before we leave. The funny thing is about our generation is that we can relate more to the generation before us than the generations that came after us. And it's because I talk to people that were born in the 90s and the 2000s are like, well, what is the 90s like? I have no fucking clue. And we were born in the 80s, but we grew up in the 90s, but we still remember fucking everything about the 80s because we appreciated it. And that is a rarity. I think we are the last generation to do that. And I hope maybe eventually a future generation will be that way. But that's why this episode was enjoyable too, because we actually got to reminisce about things that we might not have been a part of, but they were a part of us.
No, ultimately, I think it's a good rundown. Great conversation with you guys tonight. If you guys aren't following Dads on DayQuill, I'm just going to shout it out right now. Make sure to just jump over there, listen to a couple episodes. They're doing some good shit over there. Obviously, we love the shit out of Gnome. We love the shit out of Dome. We're missing the shit out of AJ, but you guys are going to move forward. So good for you guys there. And Jake, to end this out, what do you got for me?
Thanks for all the dirty talk and come back and get sanitized.